Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So, series drop news. It's been a little while, and we're getting some more series drops, so let's talk about them. This is set to be going live with the next patch, which I believe will be early June, since we kind of got our patch for the month already, pretty recently. But yeah, this is a interesting choice in terms of the stuff they are dropping, so let's talk about it a bit. Series 5 cards going to Series 4. We have Jean Grey, the Living Tribunal, Hercules, Selene, Gladiator, Nebula, and Silk. And then from Series 4 to Series 3, we have Martyr, Silver Samurai, Howard the Duck, Mirage, and Echo. Now, as far as selections go, I think this is a pretty alright one, and I think if nothing else, it is a very positive thing that we are getting a lot of these Series 4 cards out of the Spotlight Cash pool. I don't think many people are super keen on opening for any of the cards really listed here. Maybe Silver Samurai, that's probably the best of the bunch in terms of general card quality. And that's not to say these are bad or unplayable cards. In fact, I think most of these cards are fairly playable, but they weren't really exciting enough to justify an open on their own. It kind of had to be, well, maybe there's other stuff I like in this week, so I'm okay getting multiple things. But this is the approach we've seen to series drops, where they want to keep those more valuable, sought-after cards higher up in Series 4 and 5, so they have stuff in the Spotlight Caches. You can agree or disagree if you think that's a good thing or not, but that seems to be the way they are going about doing it. And I do think that does help a little bit with series drops, where I think a lot of people don't have these cards. I think a lot of people do not have Martyr, do not have Mirage, Howard the Duck, Echo. These are cards that were generally advised as skips, so the fact that you essentially get them for free if you waited is a nice bonus. In terms of the cards going from Series 5 to 4, this is actually a bit better than I was initially expecting. There are some pretty quality cards here. In fact, the majority of the cards here are pretty high quality. Jean sees play in a very relevant meta deck that is focused around ongoing. That deck is actually fairly budget friendly, with Jean Grey, I believe, being the only Series 5 card in the deck, so that deck gets a lot more budget friendly with the dropping of Jean. Tribunal, not as popular recently, but still kind of an archetype defining card, so that's kind of a win in terms of helping to get people have more decks more easily. Hercules is just not very good. There's not much to say about this card. Kind of fun, but he really doesn't feel like he has much of a home. And I think the same can be said for Selene. These are cards that I think if they were still doing Series 4 releases, feel like they probably should have been Series 4 releases, but at least they're getting down to Series 4 now. Gladiator, this is one I'm kind of surprised to see them dropping. Not as quite as meta relevant as it was, you know, in the last few months, but still a very good card, great for Surfer, and making it more accessible is definitely nice. Nebula, this one's been out for a long time, really, really good in a number of decks, so it's a nice one to see. And then Silk, solid enough card, isn't seeing the most play in the world outside of the move deck, but it is kind of a core piece to that deck for those who enjoy it. So in terms of selection, I think it's pretty decent in terms of the cards we're getting dropping down in series. I do think there's a bigger problem here, but it doesn't really impact the portion of the player base that is likely to be super engaged in content, and that is Series 3 bloat. I feel like they have to do something about Series 3 bloat. The Series 3 journey is something I think a lot of us don't really think about anymore because we finished it a long time ago. But it's a very, you know, important part of the game to new players, right? Or players who started playing the game not on release. Like, it takes longer and longer to get through that Series 3 journey now. And I think that it can feel pretty bad if, you know, you're looking for a key Series 3 card and you happen to be opening, let's say, Howard the Duck from one of your reserves. So I think that is a bit of a problem, especially with the philosophy of they want to keep the more sought-after cards in spotlights and drop the ones that aren't quite as sought-after, because that just adds further to the bloat of Series 3. So I do think that is a problem that is continuing to kind of balloon up and needs to be addressed in some way. One possible way I would like to see them address this is adding more agency to the Series 3 experience. Basically, if you remember way back, you used to be able to buy a Series 3 card in the token shop and it wasn't random. Now you can do that, but it's only random. You used to be able to pick and choose, and I think that was really helpful for making the Series 3 journey much more tolerable and enjoyable, helping you target a deck you really want to put together, rather than relying on RNG or that one freebie you get a month. So I'd love to see them implement something like that to help Series 3 incomplete players, as I think that that's a portion of the player base that you don't see talked about online as much, because I feel like so many of the invested players are done with their Pool 3 experience. But I think you'd be surprised at how many people are like newer to the game and going through that experience. And there's not a lot of people talking about that because it's so far in the past for many of us. So that's something I would like to see change a little bit. Other than that, I think these are solid enough series drops. They fit their philosophy. Again, I do think that that philosophy is a little inherently flawed, but I mean, it makes sense with how they want to operate the Spotlight caches. One other thing I think really still has to change is that 4th slot on Spotlight caches. The odds are just so high you end up getting an already owned 1,000 tokens, and it's one of the worst feelings in Marvel Snap. Something as simple as obviously duplicate protection. I don't think they're going to do that because it would probably make it a bit too easy for people to keep up at the top without having to spend anything, which is obviously something they don't want to happen. But I feel like something has to be done there because it really is, I think, by far the biggest failure of Spotlights. One other thing I've seen suggested that I would really like to see change is, now that every card seems to be a Series 5 release, they need to do away with the weighting of Series 4 and Series 5 in it. If you don't know, that random slot is a 66% chance to roll Series 4, 33% chance to roll Series 5. So because there are more and more Series 5 cards, Series 5 is kind of ballooning up because that's where all the new cards release to, and obviously series drops don't happen super regularly. It seems like we'll maybe get 3 of these in a year or so, going by the current timetable, roughly, is my guesstimate. So something really has to change there, whether you're changing the random to something more impactful, whether you're removing the weighting there. I think something has to change in that regard to make it a more positive experience, but other than that, I think generally in terms of what I was expecting for series drops, this is pretty much as good as it gets. Again, these drops will be happening with the next patch, so probably early June. So if you have your eye on any of these cards, you're probably best waiting until that patch to get them either for free as a Series 3 card or for a reduced token price as a Series 4 card. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Just wanted to get the information out there. I'd be curious what you think about all of this. Do you like what they chose? Do you not like what they chose? What are some improvements you would like to see to the system? I'd love to hear it. That's going to wrap it up for this one, though. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.